Good afternoon, sir.
Sir.
And it's Mr. Tejas, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to start first with see if we can agree on a couple of things, okay? I was listening to your testimony. I'm going to publish States 311. I was listening to your testimony, and if I heard you correctly, many times during your direct you stated that this is the killer of Mr. Gammon, correct?
I didn't necessarily, but I'm sure it is.
I mean, if I heard you correctly, you kept saying, looking at the killer, this guy. I know that you're not saying that's me, but you don't doubt that whoever that is killed Mr. Gammon. That would be fair, right?
Yes.
Okay. You had mentioned one of the things that struck you was you watched the autopsy, or you saw the autopsy photos, and you were struck by the violence of it, correct?
No, sir.
No, you did not? Were you bothered by the photographs?
I was.
And why is that?
Gruesome. I'm not used to seeing dead people.
Okay. I think you said it was ugly. Is that correct?
I may have.
All right. And you had told this jury that you felt like it looked like someone who knew what they were doing. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You believe this was a professional hit?
And that's what I believe.
Okay. And you believe this killer is kind of almost like someone hired to do this job, like an assassin, essentially, right?
That is what I believe, yes, sir.
All right. Now, I want to take a look at this picture for a second. The assassin seems to be wearing a giant sun hat. It's a pretty big hat, right?
Yes, sir.
It's fairly noticeable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
You think that might attract attention?
I would think so.
Okay, but this is a professional.
Right.
All right. And this professional is also wearing a bright orange shirt, correct?
Yes, sir.
Professional?
Yes, sir.
But wouldn't that attract attention?
I think that's part of the reason, actually. If I could elaborate.
No. You believe that professional assassins want to draw attention to themselves when they're carrying out murder. That's your testimony?
When they're framing someone, yes, sir.
So the answer to my question is yes. You believe professional assassins like to draw attention to themselves.
It depends on what the nature of their goal is, and if it's to frame someone, yes, sir. So
the answer to my question is yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Your professional assassin is wearing a big saddlebag, right?
It's a big bag.
Right. He's wearing Nikes, correct?
Correct.
Not generic shoes, Nikes, isn't that right?
Right.
Okay. Gray Nikes, is that right?
Correct.
All right. Let's cue over to the overhead, if we could, or to the computer, if we could. All right. I'm playing the PIO video from Exhibit 338. So this is your assassin walking in the middle of the day, correct?
My assassin?
All right, this is the assassin, the killer, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Seems to have a little bit of a hitch in his getup.
Yes. I don't know. I guess it's an opinion.
And you don't disagree that's from, you've seen all the footage, that's the killer's car, right?
Yes, sir.
It's a maroon Denali, am I right?
Yes, sir.
You own a maroon Denali, isn't that correct?
I do, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me at least let's look at it for a second. So there's no doubt that the killer took a maroon Yukon Denali to Garriman's house to perform, as you have explained to us, to be some sort of professional hit.
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay. So I'd like to publish the PowerPoint, if we could. It's still from Exhibit 338, Your Honor. but it is the PowerPoint video. And I want to turn our attention to slide number 72. This is after Mr. Gehrman has been killed, but if we watch this footage, isn't it true that we see the killer come back to the scene?
Yes.
And the killer seems to be looking around as if he forgot something, right?
I've watched the video. I don't know what he's doing.
We don't know.
Right.
But we know a professional killer killed someone in broad daylight, made it a point to park on a completely different street, but then for some reason decided, oops, I forgot something, and drove all the way back.
My belief is that he wanted to make sure to commit the crime, and then when he was done, he wanted to make sure the SUV was seen in front of the house.
So let me get this straight. We've watched the footage, right, Mr. Tellis?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that the Yukon parks on Wintergreen initially?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the streets, but I mean, if you say so, yes.
We'll put it to you this way. He didn't park on Bronze Circle, did he?
Not initially, no.
And by your logic, if the killer wanted to be seen, shouldn't he have just parked on Bronze Circle originally?
Well, I would have thought that, if he wanted to make sure he got the job done first, that he would not have actually parked the SUV in front to begin with.
Oh, so
that's my belief, because,
okay.
again, that isn't me.
So you have a killer who goes all the way out of his way to park on a completely different street, walks the whole length, does the killing, drives out of the complex, and then makes a U-turn, comes all the way back into the complex, pulls up, gets out, looks around for something, and you believe that's all part of the assassin's plan?
And again, I don't know what he's doing in that video.
No, I'm just using your words, your thought process.
Absolutely.
You believe that was all part of the plan?
I do. It wasn't me, so.
Sir, doesn't that look a little amateurish?
I would like to think that I wouldn't use my own car if I was actually the person who did this.
Well, doesn't it look a little amateurish to take the steps to park on the side of the street, then you forget what you dropped, probably your murder weapon, who knows, wear this goofy sun hat, a bright orange shirt. I mean, you really think that looks like a professional killer?
I do. Again,
Okay.
It wasn't me, so
Okay.
yes.
All right, sir. And when you looked at the car, you thought, gosh, that looks just like my vehicle, right?
Except for the rims, yes, sir.
Sure, we'll get to the rims in a second. In fact, let's talk about that right now.
Yes, sir.
Let's go to slide 41. One second. Slide 40. All right. So, you see that picture right here of the rims?
Yes, sir.
All right. Sir, do you see, if we're talking like clock positions, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, do you know what I'm talking about, if I'm referring to that?
12 o'clock is north.
Yes. So 12 o'clock is
Or up.
totally to the top, and then you've got 6 o'clock is to the bottom. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So look at this bottom right-hand picture. Isn't it true that when you look at the front wheel, the spokes on this wheel are not all the same size, correct?
Right.
They alternate in thickness, correct?
Correct.
At the 12 o'clock position, it's a narrow spoke, right?
Yes, sir.
And then the next two on either side of it widen out. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
And in the 6 o'clock position, that's a fat, wide spoke. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's surrounded by two narrow spokes. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it totals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different spokes. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
And just to be clear, whenever you look at one spoke, let's say at the 12 o'clock position, when you look at the opposite position, it's the thicker one, right?
Yes, sir.
And so if you look at a smaller one, if you look the opposite direction, it's going to be thicker, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that, when we look at the picture of this widened spoke on the killer's car, you see that on this wheel on the front, and you see it on the back wheel. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Publishing 322. We could cue over. That's your car, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
There's no doubt about it, is it?
No, I don't believe so.
That is the car that you don't normally drive, isn't that right? Because you drive a BMW.
Right. I drive it occasionally to make sure that the battery doesn't die.
Right. Let's look at your wheels, because your testimony was, my rims are different. Let's look, no, sir, question pending. Let's look at the front tire. You see the front tire?
Yes, sir.
The one closest to the 12 o'clock position is thick, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
The one directly opposite that, closest to the 6 o'clock position, is narrow. Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
Just like the car in the video. Isn't that correct?
It has the same type of rims, yes.
It does. But that's not what you just told that jury on direct examination. You said you looked at a tweet from General Bob Custer, and you felt, oh, gosh, my rims are different. You remember you told them that?
Yes,
You
because
relied on some person in the Twitterverse named General Bob Custer to give you peace of mind about whether or not your car matches the killer's car.
yes,
So, now looking at your rims, because let's look at them. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spokes on that wheel, correct?
yes, sir.
Just like the killer's car.
Similar to the killer's car, yes,
Not
sir.
similar, exactly like it, correct?
But they're not the same rims.
No. Sir, then let's take it this way. The 12 o'clock position is a fat, wide spoke, correct?
Yes, sir.
The 6 o'clock position is arrow, correct?
Yes,
When we looked at the photograph of the killer's car, it had that same pattern, isn't that right?
yes, sir.
And when we look at the other rims, let's say we're looking at a rim here in about the 1 o'clock position, it's narrow, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when we look at the opposite, it thickens, correct?
Yes, sir.
Just like the killer's car in the video, right?
Again, similar to the killer's car.
Right. And it's the same way on all of your wheels, isn't that right?
Right.
Okay. Now, if we could cue back over to the PowerPoint presentation. Let's look at these windows. Bottom right-hand corner, sir. The front windows are not tinted, are they?
No, sir.
But the back ones are, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's cue over to your car. Your front windows are not tinted, correct?
That is correct, sir.
And your back ones are, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Coincidence?
I don't think so. I think the killer got a car like mine.
Okay. So you would agree your car looks exactly like the killer's car?
No, sir.
No, it doesn't?
There's a difference with that paint on the lower left-hand side that Mr. Maga testified about.
Okay. Let's talk about other similarities. We've seen footage from the video with the visor down, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I could pull up the slide, but we don't need to because you remember seeing it on the survey, on the videos, right, from the
Right.
PowerPoint?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, publishing 317. And look at that. Your visor's down, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're suggesting that your professional hitman in the funny hat knew about your visor as well?
I'm saying that Mr. Mogg pulled my visor down.
Ah, but you didn't see that, did you, sir?
I didn't see him do it, but
Right. You didn't see it with your own two eyes, correct?
that is correct.
You're just telling it out of whole cloth, correct? You're speculating. Isn't that right?
I'm speculating just to the extent of who exactly did it, but sure.
Right. You don't even know who it was, correct?
It could have been another officer, yes.
Okay. So now it's not just Officer Mogg that's part of this conspiracy. There's other officers too. How many officers were part of this conspiracy?
I don't know.
Well, please tell me. How many do you think are involved?
I couldn't tell you, sir.
So you have no idea, but you think it might be Mogg and another officer, but you just can't come up with a number,
Well,
correct?
Mr. Mogg actually made some false representations about what happened. So yes.
Okay.
I mean, so
Sir,
I
isn't
don't know
it-
what his motivation would be otherwise.
Sir, isn't it possible that in your rush to drive back home, you just didn't even realize that the down visor might even be something of significance? Isn't that possible?
No, sir.
No. So you believe that it must have been the police, but you never witnessed anything like that happen?
I just
Correct?
know that I did not commit the murder, so that could not have been
Okay.
my
I
car or my
understand you're
visor.
not taking responsibility, sir, but just to get back to my question, you never saw anyone manipulate your car, correct?
I never saw anyone firsthand, no.
Thank you. But The visor is down, just like the killer.
And
Correct.
anyone could have removed it at any point in time, sir.
The answer to my question is yes. The visor is down, just like the killer's Yukon, correct?
Anyone could have moved it at any point.
So the answer to my question is yes.
At
The
what-
visor is down, just like the killer's car.
You're talking about, obviously, at this point in time.
Your visor is down in your Yukon, just like the killer's Yukon, correct?
Again, without knowing who did it, yes.
Thank you. You were here yesterday and you talked for approximately 2 hours. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
And then you came here this morning and you talked for another hour or so, correct?
Yes, sir.
There's one thing I didn't hear you mention. The DNA. I'd like to talk about that with you. You're not disputing that your DNA is underneath Mr. Gehrman's fingernails, are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. But you've heard the testimony. It's there, correct?
I don't know if it was there or at what point it might have gotten there, sir.
Okay. I'm not asking you how it got there. Are you really denying that your DNA is underneath the fingernails?
Without knowing the truth, yes, I am.
Okay. Well, you've heard witnesses testify.
Right.
So the DNA lab's in on it too?
I don't know. I don't know at what point. I don't know what point this sample was collected.
Sir, please tell this jury, how in the world does your DNA get underneath Mr. Gehrman's fingernails?
I don't know because I did not kill Mr.
You
Gehrman.
have no idea how it could have gotten underneath your fingernails, correct?
Under my fingernails?
I'm sorry, under his fingernails, correct?
I don't know that it ever was, sir.
All right. Let's do it another way. You and Mr. Gehrman are not friends, are you?
No?
Okay? You don't hang out with him ever?
Sir, I did not ever hang out with Mr. Gehrman when he was
The answer
alive.
to my question is yes. You didn't hang out with him ever, correct?
I did not.
He's never invited you over to his house.
No, sir.
You've never hung out, had drinks at a bar, correct?
No, sir.
There would be really no opportunity for him ever to put his hands on you in any sort of social situation, correct?
Correct, sir.
And yet, these two people who are not friends, your DNA just happens to be underneath his fingernails. Correct?
No, sir.
Okay. You just don't think it was legitimately placed there, correct? Or are you just ignoring the testimony of all of the witnesses that talked about how your DNA was underneath the fingernails?
Again, at some point or another, I believe it was planted because I did not kill Mr. Gehrman.
So, and by that logic, if you believe it was planted, you are at least admitting, yes, my DNA is underneath his fingernails, correct? Can you at least agree with me on that?
Whether it came from a sample of the fingernails or a different sample altogether, I don't know. I couldn't tell you,
But
sir.
the answer to my question is yes. You're at least acknowledging my
No, sir.
physical DNA is underneath the fingernails.
No, sir.
Okay, great. So you're just going to disregard what all the other DNA witnesses said about this, correct?
And,
Okay, that's fair. That's fine. Totally fine. Let's I still want to touch on this. You would agree that if I came up to you and I scratched your face or scratched your chest, there's a possibility I could get skin cells underneath my fingernails, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You would agree that if someone was trying to fight for their life and were scratching at the killer, they could potentially get DNA from the killer underneath their fingernails. That's a possibility, right?
Is that speculation or is that?
No, I'm just asking you if it's a possibility.
I would imagine so.
Okay. Let's talk about your house for a second. When they went over to your house, they took a look underneath your couch. Publishing 224. That's your couch, right?
That is my couch.
And underneath your couch is a shoe and a chopped up shoe, right?
Right.
Okay. That's the gray Nike, correct?
Pure so, yes, sir.
Publishing 228. That's what it looks like, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's gray in color, correct?
Yes.
It is a Nike brand, correct?
Yes, sir.
It has a black swoosh, correct?
Yes, sir.
It has 4 horizontal, or at least vertical bars in the middle of that shoe, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. You would agree with me. That's the shoe that the killer was wearing, correct?
I don't know that that's the case.
You don't know. Well, I mean, it sure looks a heck of a lot like it, right?
Yes, it could be the same model, but it could be a different size.
Sure. I mean, let's just look at it.
Mhm.
I mean,
I don't disagree that it's the same model.
right. It's the exact same type of shoe, right?
Right.
Okay. So we're not in dispute about that. We can agree on that, right?
Right, yes, sir.
And your DNA is in those shoes that are found in your house, correct?
I don't know that to be the case.
Okay, but that's the whole thing of like, it's a setup and I think the DNA people are framing me. Something along those lines, right?
Whether it's them or someone else?
You've
sure.
heard the results. The results say that your DNA is in that shoe. I mean, we did hear that, correct?
That is what we heard.
Okay. And you just think it's just another part of the conspiracy to somehow get your DNA into those shoes.
So I believe that there are officers who, when they think that a fellow officer needs help plugging holes in the case, that they're willing to do what they have to.
Okay. All right. You characterize this case as a case that has holes?
I think that Detective Jappy decided he wanted me for this, and everybody decided to assist him because they thought,
So Jappy's a part of it now, too.
oh, he's always
So
been.
we've got the DNA lab, we've got Jappy, we've got Mog. We haven't even touched Compass yet. We will. We'll get there because they're part of it too, correct?
So they paid Detective Jappy, yes.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to get to all that in a
Of course,
second.
absolutely, sir.
So here's the thing. Are the shoes underneath the sofa of your house, are those actually your shoes?
That I don't know for sure. I do have similar ones, but again, I have not,
Oh, you similar. Publishing 360.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same shoe, isn't it?
It is potentially the same shoe as the one, yes.
Well, sir,
Mhm.
you're not doubting that this is a photograph of shoes that belong to you, correct?
Right.
Okay.
This is me.
So this wasn't planted evidence, right?
The picture of the shoe, no.
Okay, great. And you were claiming ownership over that shoe, right?
Right.
So it's gray in color, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got the black Nike swoosh, correct?
Right.
It's got the 4 black horizontal bars in it, right?
Right.
And you would agree with me, when you wore those shoes, you probably left your DNA behind there in those shoes, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're saying now that it's just a pure coincidence that the exact same type of shoe sitting underneath your couch in your house with your DNA on it, that's not the shoe?
Remember that I was under surveillance by Detective Jappy, and this was on a day that I was under surveillance.
Let's get back to my question, sir.
Yeah.
You're trying to tell me that the shoe that you see in that photograph, that you claim ownership on, that you say you put your DNA in, that looks identical to the shoe that's underneath your sofa, underneath the recliner, you're saying those two are not the same shoes?
I don't know that they are.
Okay. It's just another crazy coincidence, right?
When somebody chops up a shoe and puts it under the couch, that's a little strange.
Right. And here's the interesting thing. Look at the date on this. This is August 19th, right?
Yes, sir.
So
and
we're
again,
talking,
surveillance started at 8:16.
Right. No. But this image is in your phone, right?
This particular image, I'm sure I'd likely texted it to my wife to say, "Hey, I'm rock climbing indoors."
So here's the thing. How? Oh, so you're saying, okay. So you believe because you were under surveillance, what? That they knew the type of shoes you were wearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've seen the photos from the surveillances, right?
I have seen some of the photos from some of them. Not everything was produced to me.
You're not wearing the Nikes.
Not everything was produced to me, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Of what was produced to you, which was everything,
It was not.
you're not wearing the Nikes on the days that you're surveilled. Isn't that right?
This
Sir,
819 was
I need
during.
you to focus on my question. Isn't it true on the days that you were surveilled, you're not wearing the Nikes, correct?
That is not true.
Okay. So we'll pull them and we'll take a walk down that lane, because every single day, isn't it true you are not wearing the Nikes?
That is not true, sir.
Okay, you're wearing your little moccasins, the gray ones, the topsiders. Remember those? You own those, right? You own gray topsiders, right?
What are topsiders? I don't know.
I'm dating myself, I guess. but they're like a boat shoe. They're kind of like it's like almost like a grayish felt, but they're not Nikes. You were wearing those when you were surveilled, correct?
If you want to put the photos up, I can confirm
The
whatever.
answer to my question is no, you don't know the answer as to what shoes you're wearing on the days you were surveilled.
I have like a tan shoe that I probably wore during some
Well,
surveillance.
don't worry. We'll get the photos and we'll go through it.
Absolutely.
Okay. So here's the thing. If Compass Realty framed you, how in the world would they know about these shoes?
Again, I said that I was under surveillance by Metro on this date, 8/19, and obviously they took photos and they provided those to Detective Jappy.
Okay.
So
So what? And then Jappy did what with them?
pass them to whomever he needed to. Again, I didn't commit the murder, so
Okay. So, sir, there's no way Compass Realty could know you had shoes like that.
they're
Correct?
not without being informed.
Okay. And this phone and this data about your phone isn't produced until after you're arrested, correct?
I don't know when it was produced.
Okay. You had your phone with you on the day that you're arrested, right?
Yes, sir.
Like, you didn't give it to Jappy in early September, did you?
No, sir.
No, you had it with you the whole time until you get arrested, right?
That I know, yes, sir.
And that was on September 7th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, the only way anyone could learn about information inside your phone would have to be after the murder was committed, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. You think there's a way that someone could have found the contents of your phone prior to the murder?
We heard earlier about the fact that someone can actually hack phones, yes. And whether it was that they found it that way or by surveillance?
We heard about the hack. It was just a question asked by your attorney. No witness ever testified that your phone was hacked, correct?
But you asked if there was only one means, and
Okay.
no, there's more than one means, sir.
Okay. Sir, let's just be clear about one thing. You have had possession of your phone through the entire month of August of 2022, correct?
It wasn't in my sight 24/7.
Sure, but you weren't loaning to anyone, correct?
No, sir.
You didn't give it to Compass Realty, correct?
That would be weird.
Yeah, it would be. You didn't give it to Derek Jappy, correct?
No, sir.
You didn't give it to Cliff Mogg, correct?
No, sir.
Because you didn't even know who Cliff Mogg was at that point, correct?
No, sir.
You didn't give your phone to anybody from Metro, correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right, so now let's get to some of the other interesting things that are in your phone. Oh, by the way, and you also have DNA on the scissors, right? Or are we denying that? Or is that one you're at least acknowledging because of the cooking thing?
No, my blood was on those scissors.
Okay, so Metro got that one right.
Yes.
That wasn't a frame job.
Well, I do think that they used some of the DNA from that, but
But before we move on, I gotta ask you this too. So, like, if Metro's really, so you think Metro's framing you for this?
as I said before, I think that we've got some officers who are overzealous and who've decided to help Jappy plug holes in his case,
Sure.
not knowing what his relationship was with Compass
Here's
Realty.
Here's a,
I object,
sir.
if you'd be allowed to answer the question before
Okay,
the next question, please.
sir, I got a question for you. If the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department wanted to frame you, why didn't they put the murder weapon in your house?
I think that maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. I mean,
Great question, because if the murder weapon that had Gehrman's DNA in it was inside your house, wouldn't that be an even better case?
yeah, but at the same time, I think if,
But it's not there, is it?
no.
No, it's not. Even though, according to you, they control everything, they don't put the murder weapon on you?
Mm-hmm.
Does
Well,
that make any sense?
I think it does.
Okay. How about this? If Compass Realty wants to kill you, why don't they encourage Metro like, we'd really like you to put the murder weapon in there? Why didn't they do something like that?
I don't know.
That seems really odd that the most significant thing is not in your house, correct?
I think what's odd is that 5 days after the murder, that supposedly there was a shoe
So the answer
and
to my
also a
question-
hat in my house.
So the answer to my question, the most significant piece of evidence, the murder weapon, is not in your house despite your theory you've been framed.
That's correct, sir.
Let's talk about this. We've seen the picture of the killer. What's the most notable thing, by far the most notable thing, on the killer's person?
It's either the hat or the shirt.
It's the shirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that shirt is not in your house, is it?
No.
If Metro or Compass or Rita or Cliff all wanted to frame you, why didn't they put the bright orange coat in your house?
speak to that. All I can tell
Doesn't
you is,
that sound not very professional if they're trying to set you up?
I don't know, maybe for plausibility's sake, they put half the
Oh,
stuff
they
in
want to
there. I'm
dial
not
it
sure.
back.
I don't know.
Okay. Here's another thing. Why don't they cover your car in Gehrman's DNA? Why'd they do that?
Because they didn't have access to the car until the day that Mr. Mogg took photos.
But they have, I mean, they control everything. They take it to their CSI garage and they rub it full of DNA. Why is there no DNA of Gehrman in your car? I mean, if they want to frame you, why isn't it there? Do you have an answer for that?
Sir, I don't know.
Okay. But one of the things that we do know is that prior to your arrest, you do in fact wash that car, correct?
The exterior only.
You still wash it, correct?
Oh, yes.
And your testimony to this jury was, after Rita told me about the tweets about the car that I found so strikingly similar, I went out and washed my car. You told them that on direct. Isn't that correct?
No, sir.
You mean Roberta?
I meant Roberta. After Roberta told you, gosh, that looks just like your car, and you read John R. Custer's tweet, you went out and that prompted you to start washing the Yukon.
No.
That's not your testimony.
No. I said that I washed all 3 vehicles.
Great. Including your Yukon.
Yes.
Right. Because you'd agree if you only wash one of them, that might look a little suspicious, right?
I don't know that I was planning things to be suspicious or not suspicious, sir.
Okay. But let's just be clear. You would agree with me, washing things can make evidence go away. Isn't that right?
I would think DNA evidence would be inside of a vehicle, not on the outside, sir.
Okay. Sir, you'd be surprised.
Okay.
But that's
Well,
not the
I guess I
point.
guess I would be surprised then.
My question is this. Washing things can make evidence go away, correct?
Could it possibly? Yes.
Thank you. Let's continue down the path of what's in your phone. Going to be, oh, I hope I didn't ruin this. I'm going to be, let's see if this pulls up. We're going to be publishing Exhibit 354. Sure. Let's close out of this. Let's look at. All right, let's look at this. Well, let's do it. We'll do it this way. We're gonna, if we could just cue over for a second to the overhead. This is this extraction report that has a lot of images regarding Google Maps in your phone. Do you remember hearing testimony about this?
That's what I heard.
Okay. And the date on this is August 12th of 2022. Isn't that correct? That's when these files appear. Isn't that right?
That's when it purports to have appeared.
Okay. Sir, you would agree with me, you don't actually have to go to Bronze Circle to get Google Maps to generate these images, correct? All you have to do is go to the website. Isn't that right?
For any location, sure. Yes.
Sure. And this is what, about 2 to 3 weeks before Mr. Gehrman is killed?
If we can trust the date, yes.
All right. So, sir, let's. I'm opening the folder that says Bronze Circle. If we could cue over, please. That's Jeff Gehrman's house, correct?
I have come to learn that it is his house.
That's a great point. You've come to learn that because prior to this all happening, you had never been over to the house, correct?
Correct.
You'd have no reason to be over at that house, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
You don't even know where he lives because I'm sure Mr. Gehrman didn't give you his personal address.
That is absolutely correct.
And yet the weird thing is, when we go through these images, when we start getting to like the Google Maps data, like that's his house, right?
It looks like that is the house.
Yeah. Same thing, that's his house, right?
It appears to be.
Like if we look over here in the back, that's literally the very spot where Mr. Gehrman breathes his last breath. Isn't that right?
Objection, all speculation.
Sustained.
That's the very last spot that we see Mr. Gehrman from that body cam, right? He's lying right over there.
It looks like a similar area.
Similar. It's the area, isn't it?
If you say so, sure.
So you don't believe that's the spot?
I mean, it looks like the house, so I would think.
How
I
about
don't think so.
there? Isn't that where Mr. Gehrman was found by the police?
And I would think likely so.
And the very spot that his body is lying is inside your phone.
That is very strange. I mean, how does someone plan to have a victim in a particular area at their home? That's again.
So you would agree with me that if you were planning to kill someone at their house, it might be a good idea to get a lay of the land, right?
I've never plotted to kill anyone.
Oh, I didn't say you. I'm just talking hypothetically. You would agree with me that if you were planning to kill someone, it might be a good idea to get a lay of the land,
I
correct?
object to the hypothetical question. He's not an expert, so.
Overruled, he can answer.
Let me ask you that question one more time. You'd agree with me. If you're planning on killing someone, it's a good idea to get the lay of the land, right?
I don't know. I don't know what the circumstances are. I don't know what you're talking about as far as where you want to, do this deed or whatever.
Mr. Tellis, if you wanted, let's do it. You don't want to answer the question. We'll do it another way.
Again, I object to characterization.
Mr. Tellis, if you're planning on doing something, you want to prepare for it, correct?
It depends on what you're planning to do.
Okay. How about your work? As a public administrator, did you prepare every day to go to work to be competent at what you're doing?
Yes.
Did you do that because it's important to do the job correctly?
Yes, sir.
And if the stakes are really big, you want to make sure you're super prepared?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there's over 100 images of Bronze Circle neighborhood in your house, correct? In your phone, isn't that right?
I don't know that they are, sir.
Okay, well then let's start clicking.
Plus, again, I wouldn't use my card. It's
It's not my question. My question is, this is contained in your phone, right, sir?
I don't believe so.
Okay, you don't believe so?
If it is in there, I didn't put it there, sir.
Okay, so the answer is it's there, but you didn't put it there, correct?
Again, I do not know that it's there, and I certainly did not put it there.
Okay, so we're just, okay, sir. You did
You're asking me to testify
sir,
something that
sir.
I can't tell you is true.
Right. But you did hear the testimony of someone coming and said, I looked in his phone and that stuff is there, correct?
That's what they've said.
It's the same phone that your expert looked at, correct? To extract Celebrite data from, right? It's the exact same phone, correct?
Sure.
Did you ever hear Mr. Aguero ever say that your phone was compromised in any way? Did you ever hear that from him?
We never asked him that question.
Okay, but he didn't say it, did he?
The question was never asked.
Right. He looked at your data, he prepared a report, and alerted no one to any problems with your phone, correct?
I don't know.
But
Yeah, that's what I would object to. He was not called upon to review the phone. He reviewed the Celebrite extraction from the phone. So I object to this line of question.
We-
Objection is sustained.
we can move on. You heard from Matt Homatic from the DFL department. He testified that there weren't any issues with this phone, correct? When he looked at data that came from it, correct?
He said that, I guess they try not to modify contents of things, but he didn't say that it was impossible.
Okay. Here, well, we can do this too. You got up on direct examination and you went through message by message by message, and you didn't complain about any of the messages that were on September 2nd, correct?
I dispute.
I object as to complain. Again,
Rephrase the question.
Sure. You offered testimony to this jury about the timeline, correct?
Yes.
You went text by text and phone call by phone call, and you explained things, right?
Right.
At no point did you say, oh, there's a problem here, correct?
Correct.
You had no problem with that information, did you?
Right.
Okay. Sir, do you find it a little bit strange that when you find information that's helpful for you in your phone, you don't think there's a problem with it, but when there's damaging evidence in your phone, you believe maybe it's been hacked or compromised?
I do think that if someone was trying to frame me, that obviously they would leave the content that I made on the phone as well as whatever they decided to put on there. Yes.
And as we see here, like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 different houses are being photographed, correct?
If that is truly what was on my phone, then supposedly sure.
Okay. Here's a good example. In this image, there's a security camera being focused on in the image, correct?
That's what it appears to be, which brings up a question that I would have.
There's no question pending, and you're going to get a chance on redirect. You'll be able to say whatever you need to say. But let's be clear. There's an image that isolates on a security camera for the next door neighbor with Mr. Gehrman. And it's right there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's one right there.
And here was something I remember you told me about. When you started out, what was your first job again?
IT.
IT. You've got a technical background, correct?
Right.
I believe even on direct examination, you described yourself as a techie, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
So you know your way around a computer, right?
Right.
Fair to say you know your way around different software, correct?
Right.
Fair to say you know your way around a cell phone, right?
Right.
You certainly know how to use Google Maps, right?
I think a lot of people do.
Right. Anyone could use that, correct?
Right.
And you would consider yourself a fairly thorough person in your work as a public administrator, right?
More thorough than to do something like this? Sure.
You consider yourself detail-oriented?
I do.
Okay. Can we cue over for 1 second to the overhead? There's over 132 images in your phone focusing on that. Would you say that's a lot of detail?
If that was on my phone, I guess I would say yes.
Okay. And then let's talk about the Popeyes thing, Publishing 364. Do you remember these images?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember them being presented as being allegedly on my phone.
Right. The testimony was it was on your phone. You just don't believe you had anything to do with it, correct?
Again, I don't know that they were ever on my phone. I know that I did not take those photos.
Okay, so you're just denying what you heard.
I am saying that whatever the testimony is, that it could have been placed on my phone, or who knows.
The testimony was it was found on your phone, correct?
It was allegedly found on an image of my phone.
Okay. So, if we could cue over to the overhead, or the computer. We talked about being detailed-oriented. You would agree this is numerous images from the same spot, correct?
It appears so.
And if we kind of look, and I just can't see because of the monitor. I mean, we're looking at, that's a sedan, correct?
Yes.
Sedan, correct? Well, it's like a minivan, but it's gray
It's
in
like
color,
a
right?
crossover.
And that's gray in color, right?
Sure.
And that's a truck. That's kind of a whitish gray, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another gray car, correct?
Sure.
Another gray sedan, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This one's a Honda, right?
Sure.
Or maybe that's not a Honda. I don't want to misspeak. That might be a Kia.
It looks like a Honda,
Is it? Okay, it's a Honda.
I think, or unless it's a Hyundai.
Or a Hyundai. I'm not
know.
sure. It kind of looks like an H. We've got an SUV here, but there's a lot of images here, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And according to this report, if we could cue over. Got 101, correct?
That's what it alleges.
That's fairly, that's a lot of photos, correct?
It would be.
looks like surveillance, doesn't it?
It looks like a stupid way to do surveillance.
Right, looks kind of amateurish, doesn't it?
Right,
Not professional.
right. I wouldn't see how that makes sense.
And then, sir, another thing located in your phone were these. Can we cue over to the overhead? Sir, what are we looking at here?
Looks like it's a identification of a vehicle that is owned by Mr. Gurman.
It's a Honda, right?
Yes, sir.
And we know from the photographs earlier, his Honda is gray, correct? We saw it from the photos, right?
I don't remember. I wasn't paying attention to the color with the earlier testimony.
You
Sorry.
have no reason to dispute me if I told you that the color of the car was gray, correct?
I don't, sir.
Okay, and we saw in those images, lots of gray cars were getting snatched, correct?
Yeah, I saw a black one and a white one, but yes.
And you know what that program that's pulling up that information is, don't you, Mr. Tellis?
That I do, yes.
That's IDI Core, correct?
Right.
That is proprietary software that is in fact used by the Public Administration's Office, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
It gives the person at the Public Administration's Office the ability to look up personally identifying information about people, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we can see here that Jeffrey Guerin is being looked up on IDI Core, correct?
What I remember correctly looking at this was it was looked up by address.
Well, that's just one report, sir. Let's look at this result. We can see
What's
he's connected.
What's the search term?
There's no question pending, sir.
Okay.
Take a look at registrants. What's the registrant?
Again, it's Jeffrey M. Gurman.
Right. And if we look down, what's the first address associated with this?
P.O. Box.
Okay. And then we go to the next entry. What's the address associated with Mr. Guerin?
7216, it's the second one related to Mr. Gurman. There's a first one related to Mr. Gurman. That's the P.O. Box, which is current. The second one is 7216 Bronze Circle, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89. I can't read this.
Mr. Tellis, that's where Mr. Guerin lived, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's where he was murdered, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this image of his personal information and his home address is located inside your phone.
Again, I don't know that it is.
Okay, so we're just, again, we don't have to do the dance, but you're just not accepting the testimony that it was located on your phone.
That is correct.
Okay, all right. But you'd agree with me that from just that bottom there, that looks like a desktop monitor, a Dell desktop monitor, correct?
Correct.
And again, this has more information about Mr. Guerin's cars, correct?
Yes, sir.
This is IDI Core, correct?
Right.
Software that is in your office, correct?
The office that Mr. Jappy visited, yes.
Okay. This is more. This is more IDI Core images, correct?
Appears so, yes, sir.
Let me just come out and ask you. This is your desk, isn't it?
It probably is.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. During your official duties as the public administrator, I mean, you didn't have like a case with Mr. Guerin at all, right?
No, sir, I didn't.
Okay.
And what was the search term to find that?
Well, one of the search terms was 7216 Bronze Circle, correct?
Can you show that to me?
Sure. $7216 Bronze. We can cue over to the overhead. Can everybody see that? Oh, it's much better over here. This glare is terrible. So you can see that, right?
Yes, sir, I can.
And the date, the created time is 8/23/2015. 2022 at 6:05 p.m., correct?
Yes, that's what it purports to be.
Okay. And that was a weekday, wasn't it?
I'm sure it was, because, you know, I don't know.
And there's one more thing. This wasn't converted into UTC time. So if we subtract 7 hours, that's at 11:05 a.m. in the morning on 8/23, correct?
And again, I don't know if this document's been modified by a PDF viewer or not, but
Do you
it purports
recall
to be of that day.
You recall the testimony, well, no, you recall the testimony of Matt Hovanich, which said this was not converted, and when you convert it, this search was conducted at 11 o'clock in the morning, correct? You recall him saying, I'm not asking if you agree with it, but you recall it being said.
I know that I didn't do the search, so I couldn't tell you definitively.
So I'd like you to focus on my question. Do you recall Mr. Hovanich saying that here in court?
That's what he said.
Okay. And just to be clear, publishing 351, there it is. That's a weekday. That's a Tuesday, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you typically have random people coming into your office using your desktop software?
Again, that could have been modified in a number of ways.
So,
a
sir,
number of ways, sir.
That's not my question. My question is, as the public administrator, did you allow people to go into your office in the middle of the day and manipulate and use your computer?
I didn't allow it, but that's not to say that it didn't happen, sir.
So the answer is, you had an edict that said you're not allowed to do this, correct?
But if I wasn't around or whatever, I don't know.
Okay. I mean, you would hope as the head of the department, they would have at least not used your computer, right?
I would have hoped, but you'd be surprised what happened in that office.
Okay. Right, because of the conspiracy? Right, okay. Isn't it true? I think we've heard from both your expert and Detective Jappy that there was no outgoing messages from your phone between 8:48 a.m. and 2:05 p.m., correct?
Right.
Okay. You mentioned, or at least we've kind of heard this comment about, well, maybe I was hacked. Just to be clear, you never reported to anyone that your phone was hacked prior to September 2nd, correct?
I wouldn't have known about it because there didn't seem to be anything wrong with the phone at the time.
So the answer is you've never reported any situation that
I didn't have knowledge of whether it had been or not.
You've never reported that your phone was stolen, correct, prior to 9/2?
That definitely did not happen.
Okay, you never reported that your house was broken into prior to 9/2, correct?
I did not, nope.
And there aren't any text messages on your phone complaining about being hacked, right?
Again, if I was hacked, I might not have known it.
Well, you know, and sometimes when we notice we've been hacked, some people will send out emails to people like, oh, you know, ignore this email, I've been hacked, things like that, right?
Yeah, there are various types of hacks, sir.
Right, right. But there's nothing like that on your phone either, correct?
No, and again, that doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't hacked. Or that somebody didn't create a false image later or add files to that image later.
Okay. So, sir, I want to now talk to you about this conspiracy a little bit. Is Rita Reed in the conspiracy?
Well, she certainly took money from Compass Realty and Adam Fenn.
So the answer is she conspired to murder Jeff Gehrman?
I don't know to what extent she had knowledge of anything other than to make sure that I got taken down.
Taken down, so she conspired to have you framed for the murder of Jeff Gehrman?
I don't know that she was privy to that particular part of.
So she's not part of the conspiracy?
I can't say either way, sir.
Okay, so you're not tying her to this?
I don't have any evidence to tie her to this.
Can we rule her out?
Object again if you'd be allowed to answer his questions.
You gotta let him answer.
Sir, go ahead, please finish.
What was the question
I'll
at this
ask the
point?
question again. Can we rule Rita Reed out of your conspiracy to murder Jeff Gehrman?
I think it's weird that maybe it's not weird. Obviously, you've got to try to minimize the concern that I have with this and try to make me seem like I'm crazy for it. But there's the evidence to back up what has been occurring. So that is what it is, sir.
Okay, so let's focus on my question. Can we rule out?
I don't know that we can either way, sir.
Okay, so it's possible she's part of it.
I would be surprised, but I couldn't rule it out.
Okay, so it's possible.
Anything is possible.
Okay. Alicia Goodwin, is she part of this conspiracy?
Again, part of the conspiracy, sure. Part of a conspiracy,
Let me specify. Is she part of a conspiracy to murder Jeff Garriman?
I would think it's unlikely.
Okay, so we can rule her out.
I mean, again, I couldn't rule anything out, but certainly I think it's unlikely.
So it's possible.
Again, anything's possible, sir.
Okay, so we can't rule her out because anything's possible.
That's what I said. I said
All right.
unlikely, but,
Okay,
if we,
understood. How about Mr. Cahill? Is he part of the conspiracy to kill Jeff Garriman?
again, highly unlikely, but
You're not
without
ruling it
further-
out.
Without further evidence, I cannot rule it out, sir.
Valid answer.
Okay, so it's possible.
Again, anything is possible, sir.
Is Thomas Monroe, who's part of Compass Realty, I believe, is he part of this conspiracy to
You
murder
mean
Jeff
Thomas Moore?
Thomas, I apologize, Thomas Moore. Is he part of this?
I would think that would be likely, yes.
Okay, likely, okay. And Compass Realty as a business as a whole is part of this as well, to kill Mr. Garriman, correct?
Again, if you recall that the best way to take me down would be to frame me for Mr. Gurman's murder. And so, yes, I do believe that.
And I want to write that down. You said the best way to take me out is to frame you for killing Garriman, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm paraphrasing, but essentially that's it.
Absolutely.
Okay. You would agree, and I think you told this jury extensively on direct examination, what a thorn you were in the side of Compass Realty, correct?
I was, yes.
You fought them at every turn, correct?
Absolutely.
You thought what they were doing was improper, correct?
I think I proved that.
Okay, you thought that so much of their wrongdoing that you actually went to the police about it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were, till the moment that you were stopped working in that office, you fought against Compass Realty, correct?
I believe when that order was entered on August 30th, that shows that. Absolutely.
And the issue for Compass Realty is because you were the public administrator, correct?
Right.
You stood in their way from doing the things that they wanted to do in terms of independent administrators. Is that right?
Yes, sir. And in fact, again, that order was going to allow me to dig into them and actually prove, without a doubt, that Detective Jaffe was just ignoring criminal conduct, sir. Yes.
So here's the thing, though. You said that they did something else. They also donated to somebody. Who did they donate to?
That's Reed Reed.
How much money did they donate?
$10,000.
So they thought, and let me get this straight. This is, in your opinion, the things that they were doing cost in the millions. Is that right?
Absolutely.
This is $1 million scheme that they're running, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And all they could muster to fund an opponent was $10 grand?
No, campaign laws prohibit anything over $10,000.
So did any other independent employees of Compass Realty shell out money for Rita?
So there's, again, Adam Fenn and also
How
Compass
much?
Realty.
How much?
$5,000 each. And so, that's all that they needed in order to...
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you have described yourself as the sole impediment for their multi-million-dollar scheme, and the only thing that they could come up with financially to stop you is just $10,000?
No, sir.
Okay. That's your C&Es that you submitted, that's all we have, right? It's like 10 grand.
That's $10,000 on our campaign contribution report.
Right,
That is not all the money that they've given to anybody to, again, to engage in this
Are
activity.
you speculating at this point?
Ask
Have you
if you're
got
allowed
any
to answer
development
the
Okay,
question.
please finish the question.
Again, without being able to firsthand investigate, because Mr. Gurman was murdered and I had been arrested and been sitting in jail for 2 years, perhaps I'm speculating, but if I'd had that authority like I had intended, I would have uncovered the various different ways that they actually tried to, thwart me. All the attorney's fees that they paid in order to pay these attorneys who would, again, this was an escalating situation that
Right.
started basically, go on.
I think we're a little far afield of my question at this
Sure,
point.
okay.
I don't know that was as responsive to my question. So let me direct you back to it. You would agree like $10,000 is really not that much money. In the world of countywide races, 10 grand, not that much, correct?
In the world of county races, it's the maximum contributions for these two guys, or these two entities,
For
but
those two guys. But listen, if we're talking about, look, you know how politics works. if there are businesses or special interests, they pool their money together behind a candidate, right? You don't know that, but you were.
It depends on
running for
it
political
depends
office
on the
and you don't know
situation.
that?
It depends on the situation.
Over each other.
Sir, are you going to sit here and tell this jury you've run for political office twice and you don't know that businesses or special interests pool their money together to back a candidate they really want? Are you really telling them that?
And again, I don't have firsthand knowledge of that because I've never had that happen for me.
Right.
Now, if you're talking about political action committees, I don't know, what do you, PACs?
Look, the bottom line is, all they donated was 10 grand, correct?
I think that's a mischaracterization of
Fine.
everything they've done.
Let's move on. And then here's the crazy part. They won, right?
And I still kept fighting them, yes.
No, sir. You were a lame duck as of September 2nd, 2022. Isn't that right?
But I still continue to fight Compass Realty.
That's not my question. You're out of a job in that you're not an impediment as of January 1st. Isn't that right?
As of January 1st, but I was right then.
So you're trying to tell us that Compass Realty was so upset with you that they backed a candidate who wins, but then they just can't wait any longer, so they murder a reporter? They can't wait but 3 months?
I would recommend that the jury watch the video and again see the time at which the order was filed. And I think you might agree that yes, that is absolutely the case, sir.
So the answer to my question is yes.
That
Compass Realty, even though they successfully backed a candidate that defeated you in a primary, they couldn't wait another 3 months for you to leave office, correct?
because I've got the authority to really crack things open
So
right
here-
then.
So
And
here,
again, he's answering the question. These are fairly complex questions. They require complex
I'm
answers.
sure that each of you lets the other.
sir, are you finished?
I am now, sir.
Okay, so then my next question is this. If they hated you so much,
I don't think they knew me to hate me, but sure.
well, I mean, they're willing to kill people over you, right?
I guess they would have hated me, yeah.
Right. And if they hated you so much, why didn't they just kill you?
That's a really good question, and I would like to answer it. My belief as to why they did.
Please tell me why they didn't
So-
just bother killing you.
Because if they'd killed me, would that have stopped Nevada Real Estate Division from investigating them? No. If they killed me, would anybody have felt the duty to continue my work because I was actually doing this? I think so. So murdering me would have not discredited me. It would not have put me in a position where all the work that I was doing just got left by the wayside. It would make no sense to kill me.
So your theory is that Jeff Gehrman is collateral damage?
When you've taken into account the fact that months earlier we had this public feud, it's a pretty convenient way to do this.
So the guy who writes the articles that ends your career, they reward him by killing him?
Well, again, like I said, it was a pretty good way to do this.
And let's not get it twisted. Rita and Alicia are part of the conspiracy that loop in Jeff Gehrman, and they're in cahoots with Compass. So they're like, you know what? Thanks, Jeff, but you got to go. That's what you're suggesting?
And like I said, I don't know that they knew about that particular aspect of the conspiracy, sir.
Okay.
I mean, I would certainly think that they wouldn't, because you're right. I can't imagine that they would know and be okay with that, sir.
Isn't it also true that Roberta testified that once you lost, Rita Reed was actually reversing the things that you did in the office, right?
That would be her prerogative at that point.
Okay. So changes were even afoot before you had even left office, correct?
Sure.
And you even told us that once Rita took over, nothing came of the things that you wanted to, like none of the things that you want to investigate were ever done, right?
I was talking about the fact that I had this investigative authority against Compass Realty that I had just gotten just a few days before Mr. Gehrman was murdered, and she never picked up that torch and ran with it. And it's clear why she didn't, because Compass Realty gave her that money, despite the fact that, as you saw, sir, she, and these homes, millions of dollars in theft, sir.
So the answer to my question is yes. Rita Reed never followed through with the things that the authority that you had, correct?
Regarding Compass Realty, yes, sir.
Thank you. And just to be clear, she was going to have full authority as of January, right?
Yes, sir.
And the authority could have gotten Compass in trouble, but that risk was eliminated once they put Rita in, according to your theory, right?
Once she actually became the public administrator, that would be the case. But while I was still, as you call it, a lame duck, I was still coming after them, sir.
Okay, so your suggestion is, your thought is murder was the only way.
There might have been other ways, but it was again, if they didn't do it, they sure had a windfall for it that they didn't expect.
So how did Compass break into your home to plant
Again,
this evidence?
Like I said before, I don't know how it got in there, but I did not put
How
it there,
did they
sir.
plant the hat?
Again, I don't know how it got there, but I didn't put it there.
How did they plant the shoes?
I don't know how it got under the couch, but I did not put it there.
How did they get your DNA in there?
Again, I don't know when and where that DNA was allegedly obtained, so I couldn't say, sir.
How did they put the images in your phone?
Again, I don't know if that was in my phone or on a corrupt image or what have you. Again, you cannot say when or where any of this occurred, really.
And again, when they executed this warrant, the police, they did that also in the presence of your wife, correct?
Not exactly, sir, if I may.
So the answer to my question is no?
Not all of them did.
Okay.
And so,
No question pending. I appreciate it. You'll have a chance on redirect.
okay.
So let's start focusing on May of 2012, or May of 2022. Sorry about that. Fair to say that the dynamics in the office aren't great at that point.
That's correct, sir.
Rita and the old guard are unhappy with you and the new guard. Would that be correct?
Yeah, sure.
And the members of the new guard included you, Roberta, and Nicole. Would that be accurate?
That was just some of us.
Okay. There were a couple others?
I believe there were actually 10 folks, and after Janie retired, it was just 4 old guards, as has been stated. So 6 of us who are, and that didn't include me either. So I guess it'd be 7 of us versus the 4 people who had gotten there before I did.
Okay. So you agreed to do a sit-down interview on May 11th of 2022 with Jeff Gehrman, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why did you agree to do this interview?
Because I wanted to dispel the notion that there was any concern.
You were being accused of a series of things, including creating emotional stress on your employees, correct?
Right.
Bullying?
Right.
And engaging in an inappropriate relationship, correct?
Right.
Okay. When you sat down to do this interview, did you want to get the truth out?
To a certain extent, yes, but when it came to the office issues, yes, sir.
Okay. When you sat down, when you spoke with him, were you truthful in your interview?
Not entirely, no.
Okay. What were you untruthful about?
About the extent of the relationship with me and Roberta Lee Kennett.
Okay. What was different? What did you say versus the truth?
I said that, she and I had no affair, but, regrettably, we did have, and when I say regrettably, I think we both regret the mistake, but we had a romantic affair with each other.
Okay, so you did lie to him, correct, on that topic?
I didn't think that was the public's business.
That's not my question. My question is...
I did lie regarding that particular issue, yes.
Okay. Now, you would agree with me, at the moment you sat down for that interview, you were in the throngs of a re-election campaign, correct?
Yes, sir.
You would agree with me that the public administration job was something very important to you.
I mean, sure. Yes. Obviously, again, it was important at the time. Yes.
I mean, well, listen, you told us a little bit about your story. I mean, right? I mean, you put yourself through law school. You opened up a law firm. You were elected to this job. You were proud of the work you were doing at the PA's office, correct?
It absolutely was.
Okay, and you wanted to remain in that job, correct?
I certainly did.
Okay. And you would agree with me that if you had been entirely truthful, that may not have helped your election prospects. Would that be correct?
That was certainly not the sole motivation for lying.
And I understand that, but that is a factor, correct?
I don't know. Again, I don't know that I necessarily consider that to be the primary factor, or honestly consider it to be a factor at all. My main concern was having any embarrassment or any, for both of our families, that kind of thing.
And listen, that's totally fair, right? You're concerned about your family, maybe you're concerned about Roberta's family. Understood. And that for you is the main reason why you're not being truthful about that.
Right.
Okay. So, you sit down. Did you feel after speaking with him that you thought Gehrman would give you a fair shake?
I did. I thought we had a pretty good conversation. I walked outside with him. I told him more about a lot of the issues that had occurred at the office before I got there, and about the way that, the strange things that had happened. I won't get into it, but yes, I thought by the time we were done that, that he understood what was really going on at the office.
Okay. And when he, sorry, excuse me 1 second. When that was published, you were very upset, correct?
Yeah, I was shocked at what ended up coming out versus what we had discussed. Yes, sir.
Were you devastated?
I don't know if I'm not sure, that I ever, consider myself devastated on anything. I was certainly upset. I was, hurt for, that this came out, but that was that day. That was that day.
Sure. And on that day, and let's just be clear, because not only does it potentially jeopardize your work, but it jeopardizes potentially the family stability. Fair?
In a sense, yes. My wife did forgive me, but it certainly it wasn't good optically for obviously my children and have them teased by other kids or what have you. So from that respect, it was a little hard on them. And here's the thing, he didn't have to write it the way he did, but he chose to do so, correct? Certainly, yes.
And you talked to him about how upset you were when you saw, I'm assuming, an advanced copy of it, or at least before.
No, I believe it was actually after it was released. I think people have been misstating the date of the article because I think my text was after. I don't know if it got republished and the date changed or what have you.
Yeah, so, and like if we publish 353A, we can see here, the date on this is May 16th, correct?
Okay.
But you agree sometimes what happens is like the RJ will throw up an article online at night, and so maybe it's the night before, and then maybe in a publication it's for the next day. Something along those lines. Okay, so because your text messages with Mr. Gehrman reacting to this actually happened on the 15th, isn't that right?
Right, sir.
Okay.
Right.
So I want to talk about that if we could. If we could cue over. Now on direct, you said it was a bummer, right? Or was that the election loss? I can't remember. I don't. Which was the bummer?
I think and maybe I can't remember what was a bummer per se. The articles certainly were not. I wasn't happy about them. Yeah.
Well, let's turn to this message. It's on page 4, and you state, "I don't know what to say. I told you about how much this has all impacted me. You heard from employees who are being harassed by these people. Provided you proof." I'm assuming that's proof, correct? It says prove. It's a typo.
It might have auto-corrected and. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Provided you proof that I was doing my best to actually smooth things over after I had to make hard decisions. Still, you wrote an article that makes me sound like I'm the guilty one. That was not fair or balanced, correct?
Yes, sir, I wrote that.
You were very, very upset when you wrote that.
Yeah, and I guess it says I'm very distraught right now. Clearly there are typos in my message.
And you held him responsible because he was the one who chose to write the words, correct?
Again, at the time, I was upset.
So the answer to my question is yes. You held Mr. Gehrman responsible because he chose to write this article in this particular way.
If I had to hold anyone responsible in any sense, I guess the context that you're saying, I mean, certainly not enough to murder him.
That wasn't my question.
Okay, I guess I'm trying to get a sense of what the
wordplay
is here.
Well, it's not wordplay. You held him responsible. He chose to write it that particular way, right?
On that day, I felt that, again, he would totally misconstrue things, so I was upset with him, and I told him I was upset with him.
Okay. So that's how you were feeling on May 15th, correct?
Correct. Mhm.
And you even say, I've done so much for that office. I told you I've been followed and that I caught Rita following me. You decided to take it on her word that she wasn't, however clearly she was. It seems to me you valued sensationalism or the value of a potential takedown than actually telling the truth. Thank you for helping him drop more pressure on my life.
Yeah, and I think that was a typo with the him. It was probably a them instead.
Understood.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you described this probably as a hit piece. Would that be correct?
Honestly, yes.
Character assassination, correct?
Yes.
And he's the one who chose it to write it that way, correct?
Correct.
And then what happens is about 9 days go by, and he reaches out to you again, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, the primary election was held on June 14th, correct?
I don't recall, but you're probably right.
Okay. So we have one article that gets into not just the inner workings of the office, but is hitting you on personal stuff. And now he's reaching out to try to do another article, right?
Right, sir.
Fair to say, you've got to be upset.
I wasn't, I don't know if at this point I was still upset. I couldn't remember. I know that I had to, at a certain point, like, start to try to, like, basically combat this with my own narrative to try to, again, win the race.
Right. You're so concerned about Jeff Garman's articles that you start literally creating websites to try to fight against it, correct?
I wanted the truth to come out, yeah.
Right. That's how significant the article was to you.
In the sense that I wanted to win the race and I needed to dispel what was in the articles, yes, sir.
You must have felt that this guy is just personally out to get you at this point.
Not personally out to get me. I thought he was a friend of John Cahill's.
Okay.
Later I found out that Alicia Goodwin's father was a friend of his.
That must have been infuriating.
I mean, it is what it is. You know, like I said, by the time, about a month later, I think you see my tweets. I'm more just trying to.
We'll talk about
Sure.
different things over time that we see from you. But moving on, you end up providing a written statement, correct?
Yes, sir.
I would imagine you're hopeful that you're going to get more of a balanced article from him, correct?
No, sir.
Okay, you're just hoping he'll just publish something, correct?
I'm just hoping that it won't be too bad because I had already figured by this point it's like, well, you know what, he's going to do what he's going to do.
But it was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Again, that's.
It's the same stuff, right? He's trashing you, correct?
But there's a certain point which you kind of get desensitized to things.
Sure,
Right? So by the time the fourth article came out, I was like, oh, whatever. Right? I will say that when it
Sir,
comes.
An objection, he's answering the question.
You gotta, both of you gotta let each
I know,
other
but sir,
answer.
the witness is non-responsive to the question.
He's answering the question that's posed, and it's a complex
I'm
question.
asking him to ask the question again.
You're upset because he's trashing you, correct?
Again, I couldn't say at that time that I was still upset or just trying to fight to win the race.
Okay. This was not helping your election, was it?
No, that it certainly wasn't.
So then we have, let's do this, let me back out.
And
Hold on a second. I'd like to now turn to some items that pop up in your phone kind of around this time. So there is this image from May 20th. I'm going to publish that. This was found in your phone, correct?
yes, it was, sir.
You're not denying that this was something actually in your phone.
No, and I can tell you why I did.
I'm not asking that question, but the title of this is How to Push Down Negative Search Results, correct? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have these kind of inflammatory tweets that you're tracking where they're talking about you, correct?
I was not tracking these. These were given to me by Roberta Lee Kennett.
Okay, so people are
remember
sending them to you, right?
Yes.
And then you have this message here to Mr. Kinsley. And just to be clear, that is a message that is being kind of issued out on the 15th, which would have been like that day that article came out, right? Is that correct? Because you had
sure.
said, because the article was dated, the original one's dated 5/16, and we had that conversation about it released earlier, right?
Right.
Okay. So let's look and see what you say here. Isn't it true you tell Mr. Kingsley, I'm working to bring the full truth to light? I guess I want to focus on, you're kind of maintaining the same posture that you had with Gehrman, right? About these things, some things are true, none of this stuff is true, correct?
Well, and again, like I said, I'll point out that I did lie in this message because I did not want to publicly embarrass my family further.
Right. And to be fair, it's understandable, but so this is something that the potential impact on your family is so significant, you're even telling people in this context like it's not true because that's an important thing to protect. Fair?
I don't think that my wife would have left me, but certainly I didn't want them to have to go through any embarrassment or any pain.
Sure. And I want to focus down here at the very bottom because I know you said, I was kind of over it and things like that. Isn't it true you state here you have no idea how hard it's been? You say that, correct?
That was that same day, and that was referring to the troubles that I had with the ladies in the office, that no matter what I was doing to try to actually make peace with them, giving them raises, whatever things, that still, I had to be a cheerleader for the other employees while trying to minimize the damage they were doing.
Okay. You say I'm truly devastated, correct?
And that was, again, on the same day that I texted Mr. Gehrman.
So the answer is yes?
Yes. Yep.
Isn't it true you also try to reach out to county officials to see if there's anything that they can do to help rein in Rita Reed's behavior?
That I don't recall. I mean, if you got something to show that, as long as,
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. So,
I did talk to HR about how to best handle disciplinary issues, and got their advice and did things appropriately,
okay.
if that's what you're referring to.
I'm just asking. And so now that brings us to the primary, which is June 14th of 2022. You would agree with me, when that day began, you were hopeful that you were going to win, correct?
You're always hopeful when you're running for an election.
You had gone out, you had canvassed neighborhoods, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were expressing to your friends and family that, yeah, I think we're going to pull this out, correct?
Obviously, you always want to have an optimistic face, no matter what, but I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to win or not.
Okay. But ultimately, you lose. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you don't place second. You end up placing third. Is that right?
Right. All three of us were pretty tight, though, but yes.
Right. And I'm going to approach with what's been marked as State's Proposed 377. Does that appear to be kind of the accurate outcome of the election?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's a fair and accurate depiction of those results?
I think so. Like I said, it was pretty close.
At this time, we're asking state permission to admit State's 377. Sure. Sorry about that.
There's no objection.
Publishing 377, we can cue over. So when we look at this, you don't lose by much, do you?
No.
I mean, what, a little more than 2,000 votes, correct?
Right.
Jeff Gehrman didn't write any articles about Carolyn Escobar in a negative fashion, did he?
I wouldn't think so.
I mean, leading up to this election, he didn't do that, correct?
Correct?
He didn't do that about Rita.
No.
Fair to say, in your opinion, if Jeff Gehrman hadn't written these articles, you probably end up winning that primary.
Probably yes.
It had to be crushing, correct?
No, it was disappointing, but again, I knew that my chances were 50-50, so I was prepared for a loss, and I think my conciliation post on Facebook was pretty clear that, hey, you know what? We tried really hard. We gave it our go, but you know, I'm going to go serve families as a probate attorney again. I'm ready to go back to work, and you know, and I got a lot of support when I made that post.
Okay. But everything that you work for is gone because of a couple of articles that say things that you don't think are really true, correct? Especially about the work stuff, right?
It wasn't the articles per se. It was obviously Rita and Alicia,
who got Jeff Gehrman into the fold to publicly tear you down.
They did, yes.
And he agreed to do it.
Yeah.
So now I want to focus on just 2 days later. 2 days later. Oh, can we cue over? Sorry. 2 days later, Jeff Gehrman writes to you, correct?
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you are kind of right on teetering on the verge of like conceding, correct?
I think it took a long time for the count to occur. It was like
Okay.
almost a week. So we were, again, this was a while back. So if I remember correctly, we were still waiting for the final outcome. And yeah, so this was.
So you're down as of May 16th. You're losing in the race, correct?
It was kind of like similar to what you saw on that report in the sense that things kept going up and down, but you know, it was I think if I'm not mistaken, it was somewhere in those 1,000, 2,000 between the three of us, but Rita would go up, then Caroline would go up, and so it was more of a tug of war between them and that was pretty much in third place at all times.
So it's very close, right?
It was really close.
You don't know how this, at this point, as of June 16th, you still don't officially know how this one's going to shake out, correct?
Based on the fact that I never came out of third place during the whole thing, I was pretty sure that it was done.
Okay. But nevertheless, Jeff Gehrman comes calling again, correct?
Mm-hmm. And it's about that truth website that I created.
Right, and you just say, it's fine at this point, they won, do what you like.
Mm-hmm.
Fair to say you felt resigned at this point?
Yeah, like just, what's it going to do at this point? Whatever,
Well, he wrote another one, correct?
Mm-hmm. That is, yes.
Fair to say you weren't happy with that coverage. It wasn't positive, was it?
Again, I don't remember if I cared or not. And I know I started to poke fun at him on Twitter, but, it came to a point where it was just me trying to, I think, see if I couldn't get him to put more light on my website.
Okay. And so then on June 18th, he publishes this article number 3, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yes.
And then just 6 days later on June 22nd, he publishes a 4th article about you officially losing, but pointing out that you remain combative, correct?
Yeah, which again was inaccurate, but sure. Yes.
Okay, so again, it's inaccurate reporting about you, the 4th one.
Right. Well, like I said, by this point, I was just having fun with it.
Well, let's be, Mr. Tejas, you didn't like Jeff Gehrman by this point, did you?
I mean, sure. I did not like him.
You hated him, isn't that correct?
And I don't know if hate, I mean, there might have been various points throughout that where I might have felt like that, but I don't know that he was not a central figure in my life. I'll put it that way.
He is the figure that ends up causing you to leave your job as public administrator for Clark County, correct?
Again, I don't blame him per se. I blame Rita and I blame Alicia.
Sir, you just told this jury that if those articles weren't written, hold on,
Go ahead.
I'm not finished. You just told this jury, like 5 minutes ago, that if Mr. Gehrman hadn't written these 4 articles, you believe you would have won the race.
Yeah. But again, if Rita and Alicia hadn't gone to Alicia's dad to ask for this favor, those articles wouldn't have happened.
So the answer to my question is yes.
Who I would hold most responsible is not Mr. Gehrman.
Sir, that's not my question.
Okay.
My question is, you believe if Mr. Gehrman had not written these 4 articles, you would have won the race, correct?
I do believe that, yes.
You hated him by this point in time, isn't that right?
I could not say whether I hated him by this point in time, and if I, how long I might have hated him, if,
Roberta said you hated him.
Roberta is entitled to her own opinion. I don't know that I ever said I hated him.
Okay. So, now we're in July. Fair to say working in that office had to have been hard in July.
So after the election loss, I ended up, so I guess just back up a little bit. When Mike Murphy came into the office, it was not a directive from Clark County. It was a request. Jeff Wells said, hey, you've got this situation. I think, maybe if we bring in Mr. Murphy, he could help you kind of be an independent, arbiter of sorts. And he said that, you don't have to say yes. This is not, we have no right to force this on you. It's entirely up to you. And I said, you know what, sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. So brought him in, but then again, that got misconstrued, which is, it is what it is at this point. But so once I lost the election, he and Rita had taken over the duties primarily, and I did most of my work from home, coming in a couple of days a week, just to do things here and there.
Okay, so to go back to my question, was July hard? Yes or no?
I guess my answer would be not as. I didn't have to deal with the first, the day-to-day frustrations I used to deal with when I was in the office 50 hours a week.
So you came in less, correct?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Rita assumed more of a responsibility,
Right, sir.
even though you were still the acting, duly elected public administrator.
Right. We decided, just.
Okay. I'm going to publish Exhibit 340. We could cue over to the Elmo. On June 13th, I don't know if you are aware of this back in the day, but an email is sent out. I'm sorry? July, sorry about that. July 13th of 2022, Jeff Gehrman is making a public records request, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, in July, you have already lost your race, correct?
Right.
So the election isn't at stake. Is that correct?
Right. Correct.
You will be gone in a matter of 6 months, right?
Right.
And now, Jeff Gehrman is asking for all emails between Public Administrator Robert Tellis and Estate Quarter Roberta Lee Kennett from January 1st to the date that this is fulfilled, correct?
Right.
He also wanted all of your communications, including messages between you and Roberta, correct?
Right.
He wanted you to provide, wanted the county to provide all text messages between you and Roberta, correct?
Right.
From your personal cell phones, correct?
Yes, he did, but he was not allowed to have them. But yes.
Sure. Understood, but that's how far this is going. And additionally, and I didn't read that in the middle, it included a request for Microsoft Teams messages as well. Isn't that right?
Right.
Okay. Now, sir, you are familiar with the county's policy. Well, let's do it this way. You testified to this jury that, before the records request went out for the Teams messages, you had reviewed them and you didn't have any issues with them, correct?
And I'd love to elaborate on that if I could.
I need you to focus on my question. Yes or no?
I had an opportunity to. Yes, I did have an opportunity to review them before.
Judge, it's a two-way street on this one.
Okay, if you can answer the question, yes or no.
I haven't finished the question yet.
Oh,
Then I can ask Mr. Hamner if he wants you to answer the question.
I need you to listen. I need to finish the question.
Oh, I thought you were done. Sorry.
Well, yes or no. You testified on direct examination that you reviewed Teams messages and you did not have an issue with them, correct?
The production that I understood was going to be sent to Mr. Gehrman, yes.
Right. And just to be clear, you were familiar with the county's policy about what gets produced in a public records request, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so, isn't it true that under this county policy, personal messages would not be produced under a public records request?
That is correct.
Okay. So any personal communications between you and her wouldn't go out to Mr. Gehrman, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
And that is why, and so you're like, I don't have any issue with that other stuff going out, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But let's be clear about something. The election's over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff Gehrman,
Yes, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
and Jeff Gehrman seems to still be digging about you and Roberto, isn't that right?
Yes, but there's nothing to dig, provided obviously that I,
Well,
if he was going to receive what I saw, then there was nothing for him to dig.
I mean, you would agree, I mean, reporters typically don't ask for records requests unless they're planning on doing a story, correct?
Sometimes I think they're just fishing to see if there is a story.
And according to this records request, he's fishing about one thing, it's you and Roberto, right?
Right.
Okay. Which you told us back in May, when you sat down with your interview with Jeff Gehrman, the number one priority was to, protect your family and not really dig into that, correct? Or
Not
at
really
least
dig into
disclose
it.
that, correct?
I'm sorry.
You told us when you met with Gehrman on May 11th, you had said, I was truthful about some things, but I wasn't truthful about everything. The one thing I didn't want to talk about was the indiscretions. And you said that the reason for that was I was really concerned about my family, correct? Okay. The election's over. You're on your way out, and now this guy is wanting to ask more questions about you and Roberto, right?
Yeah.
It's not about you and Rita, right?
There's a. I know that there was a later request for those other emails that got appended to this, but I don't know if you remember that with Mike Murphy and Rita.
Just in this specific request, he's not asking for communications between you and Rita, right?
Correct.
He's not asking for communications between you and Alicia, right?
Correct.
It's just about you and Roberto.
Right.
He's not leaving it alone, is he?
I think he's still fishing.
That had to have been frustrating, Mr. Tellis.
No, it was not, because I knew he wasn't going to have anything based on what I reviewed from the production.
Okay. So it's your testimony that the possibility of a fifth article didn't concern you at all when the potential source of the request is just about your communications between you and Roberta. You're telling us that's not a concern at this point in time.
Again, so I can explain to you how things.
Yes or no? Is it a concern or is it not?
Not at the time that I reviewed those documents. No.
Okay. So now let's now jump forward to August 8th of 2022. On that day, Dan Coolin emails you and starts to tell you about the production request, that it's going to start to happen, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's on August 8th, right?
Yes, sir.
Do this quickly here. August 8th. 4 days later, in your phone, the Google Maps and bronze circles start popping up, correct?
No, sir.
Read this out to me. What does that say?
That says August 12th, 2022.
Great. Publishing 364. This is the street surveillance. Please read out to me what the date is on that.
August 15th, 2022.
Okay. You would agree that August 12th is just 4 days after August 8th, correct?
I would.
You would agree with me that August 15th is just 7 days after August 8th, correct?
I would.
And if we go back to the overhead, 354. I want you to read the date on entry number 1 on that.
The modified date?
Yeah.
8/23,
Okay.
2022.
I wish I could do the math on that one. I feel like that's like about 2 weeks after August 8th, correct?
somewhere on there.
We also heard from Nicole Lofton, correct?
Yes, sir.
Nicole Lofton was employee of the Public Administrator's Office, correct?
Yes, sir.
A member, as you describe it, of the New Guard, correct?
And,
She was
yes.
on Team Telus, fair?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. You had text messages between you and Nicole Lofton through the course of your time as a public administrator, correct?
If you've got them, then sure. I don't recall.
Okay. Well, I'm going to approach for a second. So I'm going to show opposing counsel. Thank you, sir. You had a chance to review those text messages.
Yes, sir.
That's a fair and accurate depiction of some of the text messages you had with Nicole. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, sir.
At this time, we'd ask that these be admitted. States proposed 376.
No objection.
Very easy.
So again, just to set the stage, like how are you feeling in early August about Jeff Gehrman and his articles?
Like I said, I don't know that I thought any way about Jeff Gehrman in particular.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right. So we're just publishing these. Just zoom in. So that's just the ones in green. That's you, correct?
Yes.
That's just the first page that goes back to August 17th of 2021. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So this message is from June 15th. That's the day of the primary, or at least the day after the primary, correct?
Yes, sir.
I think you state, isn't it true, you state to her, good morning, full results aren't in yet. It's about a three-way tie with me, last by around 2,000 votes. The precincts I'm counting on aren't in yet. And Nicole says, praying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, me too.
Yes.
Turning to what's marked as page 64, just on the actual pagination. We look at this bottom email at 6:15 at 12 o'clock p.m. She writes to you, folks are prancing around like you conceded. Did you? Do you remember her writing that to you?
Not until I see it now, but it's been a while.
Okay. And then your response is, isn't it true your response was, no, I'll check the website to see if a winner was declared. And she responds, okay, correct?
Yes.
I think you indicate that if I lost, I will protect you until you can get a new position. Isn't that
Yes.
right? And she responds, I appreciate that. Is that correct?
Yes.
And isn't true then you say, I'm so sorry, Nicole, I tried so hard, I almost made a comeback, but it's done, correct?
Right.
And that's at 3:16 p.m. on the 15th, isn't that right?
Right.
And you say here, unfortunately, too many people bought the lies, isn't that right?
Right.
And when you're saying that, you're referring to the voters, correct?
Yeah.
And the lies were propagated by those articles, correct?
Yes.
That Mr. Gehrman wrote.
Right.
We look down here at the end, she says, I'm so sorry, will you work until the end of the year or resign? Isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
And she says, thank you for believing in me. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Fair to say she cared for you and how you treated her in the office, correct?
Right.
All right. And you told her, in fact, I very much believe in you. You have been my best employee. I'm so sorry that I couldn't pull it off. Isn't that correct?
Right.
And she lets you know that you fought hard. Isn't that right?
Right.
And we see here on 6:15, you even say to her, I'll stay on until the end of the year, although if they aren't messing with you, I don't know that I'll spend a ton of time in the office, correct?
Right.
Essentially ceding power to Rita Reed, correct?
Right.
And Rita Reed is friendly to Compass Realty, correct?
Right.
And so your intentions were to step away from that office or lower your profile even as early as June 15th of 2022.
Right.
So you would be less of a threat to Compass Realty even then, correct? Because you'd be stepping away and not spending a ton of time in the office.
No, sir. The evidence proves otherwise.
Okay. And then we look here at text on June 21st. Nicole says, now Alicia is in the other cubicle counting the files that were left in there. These people are so sick. They spend half the day trying to get you instead of working. The you she's referring to is yourself, correct?
I don't know if it was that or, generally saying you in that sense, like, because I don't have files in a cubicle.
Okay.
So it might have been, that perception that, I don't know how to explain that. I think you get it.
Contextually, she's talking about the old guard, correct?
She is talking about them, but as far as whether she's talking about herself or me, I don't know.
Understood. But she believes these people are sick, is that right?
That's her opinion, and, they did some pretty tough stuff.
Well, and it appears you share that same opinion. You say yes, like they think it all still matters, correct?
Right, like they're still trying to sabotage me, but it's pointless at this point, right?
Well, you say it's pointless, but we'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
You then also say she's probably trying to get fodder to pass to the reporter, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the reporter is still on your mind, isn't that right?
Just from the standpoint that they're still trying to concoct things, and that's why I decided to stay away from the office so they couldn't concoct anything anymore.
Because the articles were damaging, correct?
They were damaging, yes.
Professionally and personally.
Primarily professionally, because obviously I had to figure out something else to do for work, which, again, I'm a lawyer, so I guess, rehang my shingle if I can, do whatever I can.
And that's a really interesting point. On August 8th, we've seen how that's the day you get notified that Gehrman wants stuff between you and Rita, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I want to look at what's marked on the bottom is page 110.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it true that you tell Nicole at 12:28, you're dealing with a lot, I'm sorry. For me, this may have a long-term impact. I have people that no longer talk to me. Also, I'm worried in this digital age that the articles could potentially follow me around for years to come. I'm actually worried I might not have any good employment prospects after this, correct?
Yes.
And it just so happens that you were then informed that Gehrman is snooping around looking to potentially do another article, correct?
Yeah.
And you're telling Nicole in confidence that you believe your future employment is jeopardized because of the articles, right?
Yes, but the damage was already done. So it's not, whether he wrote another article, he wrote 10 more articles, it was irrelevant at this point.
Well, apparently you don't say that, though, in your email. You don't say in that, that text message. You don't say, but the damage is already done, do you? You don't say that in that message, correct?
Well, it says that the articles are going to have an impact, and you would think that would refer to previously published articles. So I think that it's assumed that, it's done is done. So
Sir,
if he goes on and does 10 more articles, same net effect, really.
Right. Sir, to go back to my question, isn't it true you never use the words, the damage is already done, correct?
Not in this particular message, no.
Right. And you state, also, I'm worried in this digital age that the articles could potentially follow me around for years to come. I'm actually worried I might not have any good employment prospects after this, correct?
I'd say it'd be better than if I had actually murdered Mr. Gehrman.
So, sir, we're going to go back to my question. Isn't that what you wrote in the text message?
Yes.
And 4 days later, Google Maps images start popping up in your phone, correct?
No.
7 days later, on the 15th, surveillance is being conducted on a street, correct?
Not by me.
And on the 23rd, multiple images of Gehrman's information about what car he drives and where he lives is literally being screenshotted of your desktop computer, correct?
Not by me.
Because if it was you, that would be a big problem, wouldn't it?
For conclusion, it's argumentative.
It is argumentative. If
We'll
you
move
want
on.
to rephrase it.
No, we can move on. Publishing 342. Then you receive this email on 9/1, correct?
Yes, sir.
You receive it at 5:45 p.m.,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
And we heard from Roberta, who talked about this, right?
Right.
And she had indicated that the release of the information to Gehrman was just around the corner, correct?
Right.
Let me find this.
And I knew in advance that it'd be only...
Sir, there's no question pending. At 5:45 on on September 1st, you get the information. You get notified that Jeff Gehrman is soon to receive personal records requests related to messaging and communications between you and Roberta, correct?
No, it was not personal.
Okay, I didn't mean that. I meant, I apologize for my misstatement. Communications between you and Roberta, correct?
Business related, yes.
Right. And then at 11:20 in the morning, just a few hours later, Gehrman's dead, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about September 2nd, 2022. You had testified on direct that you had, your daughter had asked you a question, you responded around 8:48 in the morning, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You said at that point you then hung out at home, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Around 10ish you went for a walk, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You said
Are
you,
those all yeses?
Yes, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
you said you then came home, isn't that right?
Yes.
And you said that you went to the gym around 12 o'clock, 12:09,
Somewhere in there, yes.
correct? I think that's when you log in, around 12:09.
That's when I checked in using
Okay.
my phone at Planet Fitness.
Okay. And that's the Planet Fitness that's on like Fort Apache and Charleston, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it's kind of just down that road, right? Down. What's the road? So you live on Spanish Steps,
Correct.
and then the road to kind of make your way out to Piggott. What's that one called?
South Tassel,
Okay. And then if you made a left to go by Piggott, what's that big road?
Red Hills.
Red Hills. And Red Hills can kind of get you up to that corner, right? Where the
You
Planet
can go through a
Fitness is.
roundabout. You can go north from there on Apple, and then you head east to get to Planet Fitness.
Okay. And I think what you had, before we do that, let me ask you this. So, what car did you take to the gym?
The BMW.
All right. Oh, so it's kind of, what's the color? It's not quite gray. It's not quite brown.
I think it's brown.
A brownish color. It's kind of metallic-ish.
Right.
Okay. And you took that route that we just talked about. That's how you got to the gym. Correct?
Probably.
Okay. Oh, another question. And we're circling back to something, but your belief is what's Jappy's role in the conspiracy? What exactly did he do?
I'm not certain to what extent, but obviously he's the one who initiated the surveillance that was done on me that went from, I believe it was August 16th, all the way through September 7th. So despite his testimony also that they only do surveillance every other day, if you look at Cynthia Sauerland, the surveillance pages from that, you see that they're done back from one day to the next. And when I requested that these surveillance logs be provided to me the first time, I received only 3.
Okay.
Then when I pointed out the fact that there was a surveillance log on September 6th that mentioned September 1, then lo and behold, now there was 4. Okay. I believe that there were actually surveillance logs for every single day, and they just weren't turned over to me. So I believe that, that Jappy knows that I didn't kill Mr. Gehrman.
Okay. So do you think it's a little strange that if Jappy wanted to frame you for murder, he would clear you of all wrongdoings with the allegations of taking bribes?
I'm already here on this charge, so I don't think he needs to worry about another charge.
And so if the job's done, why waste his time with Compass Realty?
In what sense?
Well, he testified that after you got arrested, he spent another 4 or 5 months investigating Compass Realty and then brought charges to the DA's office. Why do that?
So, and this is an interesting point,
Okay.
because if you look, well, I guess you can't look, but the file into me was over 100 gigabytes in information. That's quite a bit of information. The file into Compass Realty was only 3 gigabytes worth of information. It appears it was just a token investigation because, again, he didn't do the stakeouts that we discussed. He very clearly said that he believed that this personal property was leaving the homes. And it's shown in 500 pleadings that, again, there was no personal property taken from these homes, no vehicles that were actually, I'm trying to finish answering your question, sir.
Okay.
There were no vehicles, again, for which the titles were traced. He didn't investigate the issue with the homes being trashed ahead of time to lower their values so that they could basically net almost double on the next sale. So, again, that's, as far as I'm concerned, when he refuses to do a legitimate investigation on me, again, I'm doing just 3 gigabytes worth of data. I think it was just a sham investigation. He didn't do any of those other things he promised he would do.
Sir, isn't it true you told us on direct examination you bemoaned the Attorney General's office for looking at your case for like a matter of a month and then just not doing anything with it? You did say that, right?
No.
You never complained about the Attorney General not taking your Compass Realty allegation seriously?
I did not bemoan and I did not complain.
Okay. Did you say they didn't take it seriously?
I didn't say they didn't take it
Did
seriously.
you say that they only looked at it for like a month or 2?
They only looked at it for a month.
Just a month?
Yeah.
And Jappy looked at it for 11.
But again, he didn't do the things he promised
Yes
he
or
would.
no? He looked at it for 11 months.
Yes, but it was a sham investigation.
Okay.
It was a bogus investigation.
Okay.
Didn't do what he said he was going to do.
All right. Oh, let's talk about Zach. You like Zach, right?
I think he dislikes me more than I dislike him. I didn't really, personally, I didn't have qualms with him. I didn't. He didn't waste my headspace.
Okay. And that's good to know. The disagreement that you had, do you really think it was like a total fallout over this Ottawa property?
I don't. No.
Okay. Because to be honest, like you did continue to do business deals with Zach after Ottawa.
Yeah.
Right?
I think what Zach was upset about,
Sir,
if I may.
Sir, my question is yes or no? You continue to do business deals with Zach Schilling after the Ottawa sale?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And now at this time, I'm going to show opposing counsel what's been marked as 388, 389, 390, 391, 392, 393, 394, 395, and 396. Sure. Sir, I'm going to show you first 390, 389, and 388. Do these look familiar to you?
Hold on just a few moments, because
Sure.
I want to look at where he actually changed realtors, because when I do my redirect, this is all going to become relevant.
Okay. Do you know what that is?
I do, but it doesn't say who the realtor was on this.
No, and I would turn your attention to 388.
Okay.
Look here at the
Can I
bottom.
approach?
Sure.
Yes.
388.
Mhm.
Does that help? Kind of help. I mean,
Sure.
look at the address.
Of course.
We got our address here,
Right.
and that corresponds to those documents. Do
Correct.
these appear to be like a listing agreement, kind of an order closing the sale of a certain property, a check going out to Mr. Schilling?
Yes.
And these all appear to be fair and accurate depictions of those.
And this is Ottawa.
The Ottawa
Right here.
property. Yep.
And just let me write a note if I may.
Sure.
And you're okay with this?
Obviously, we're going to receive copies of this, so.
You have they've been already
Right.
produced.
Date on it. So what is the date here?
If you go to the back page, the very last page, I think it kind of shows some dates.
Okay. You got it. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we'll ask for admission of stage proposed 388, 389, and 390.
There's no objection.
There's no.
And then I want you to take a look at 396, 395, 394, 393, 392, 391, and let me know if these appear to be listing agreements.
Yes, they are, sir.
Okay, and those are fair and accurate depictions of those agreements, correct? that
Yes,
you're
sir.
showing?
Mhm.
Just one second. Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Ottawa was the property where you guys had some sort of disagreement about a valuation, right?
Yes, it was more a little bit of sour grapes on his end, but yeah, no, it wasn't, as far as I was concerned, a big deal.
Right. So, but when we heard kind of cross questions and testimony from Zach about there being this disagreement, Ottawa is the one that we're talking about, correct?
Ottawa's the one where he felt like he was cheated, but that wasn't the case.
Understood. And just publishing 388, this was kind of the licensing agreement to bring Zach Schilling on, correct?
Right.
And if we look here, oh, okay, it's showing up there. Zach Schilling is there. Sorry, this monitor's kind of cut off. 389 is a court order that establishes that the sale was approved for this Ottawa property, correct?
Yes, well, basically, it's just that this is the deed after the docs have been finalized, everything's done.
Understood. And publishing 390, we'll do it backwards, but that's like a check that got cut to Zach in relation to this property, correct?
Mhm,
And the date on this is 3/22 of 2021, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So despite this disagreement, isn't it true that the public administrator's office continued to use Mr. Schilling for properties that you needed to have sold that came through the PA's office?
Yes, I never disputed that.
Okay. Well, I mean, we heard some testimony about like, oh, Zach didn't get a lot of business at Trail. I think Nicole may have said things like that, correct?
Right, and it's true that he actually had his business reduced, but I'll go into that.
Well, okay. So, but publishing 391. Oh, sorry. We're requesting that 391 through 396 be admitted to evidence.
I have an objection.
They're admitted and be published.
Thanks. So we've got here in 391, on June 8th of 2021, this is a deal with Zach, correct?
Right.
We've got another one here, 392, 612, another deal with Zach.
Right.
394, 716, another deal with Zach.
Yes, sir.
393, this is a 611, 2021 deal with Zach.
Right.
Publishing 395, 814, 2021, a deal with Zach.
Right.
Publishing 396, 10, 621, another deal with Zach.
Right.
All postdating the big disagreement, correct?
It, again, was not a big disagreement, and as far as I was concerned, and the issue that he truly has with me will come later, and I can discuss that.
Okay. The bottom line is money continued to flow from the public administrator's office to Zach Schilling for the work on these houses, on these deals, correct?
Not nearly as much at a certain point, but yes.
My
But
question is
yes. Mm-hmm.
Thanks. All right. You mentioned you're a tech guy, right? A little bit of a techie.
I think you asked that before, yes.
Are you an Apple guy or a Google person? When it comes to phones, what are you?
Well, I have a Google phone.
Okay. I want to. We've seen this timeline, right? We've seen this timeline on publishing stage 374. I want to turn your attention to this page. It's entries 23, 24, and 25. You uncovered these messages and calls from your wife on direct examination. Do you recall doing that?
Yes, sir.
I believe you had said that you were out walking around. You received this message, and then your wife called, and you just didn't want to like get back to her, and that was kind of what happened with that. Is that correct?
Right, I was really close to home. I was going to walk in the door, so why? Or walk through the garage, I should say, and so why?
Right. And I think you said, "Honey, I'm home," right?
Something along those lines.
Because May was home at that time.
Right.
Okay. And that was just minutes later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So there wasn't any concern. It was just a picture of your daughter in this call. You were just going to take care of it, right?
Right.
Okay. Nothing else?
As far as like messages and things go, or
Okay. Well, anything else you want to add to this, sir?
I don't think so.
Your wife doesn't have a Google phone, right? She have an Apple?
Yes.
And Apple's got all these crazy products. They've got what's the thing that you put on your wrist that kind of goes with your phone? What's that one called?
Some of the Apple Watch.
The Apple Watch. Does May have an Apple Watch?
She does.
Okay. Did you ever watch Steve Jobs' presentations when he would get up and say, just one more thing? You ever see him do that? And he drops like a new product or anything?
No.
Never seen that before?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, let's take a look. I'm publishing I don't even know if I've shown this opposing counsel. This is just. May I approach the witness? Let the record reflect I'm showing opposing witness 378. Stage proposed 378. Those appear to be the messages that we're looking at in that timeline, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, and on the back of this is the very image that she sent to you. Would that be correct?
Right.
And that's a fair and accurate depiction of that thumbnail,
Mm-hmm.
correct? And it's a fair and accurate depiction of what's up there in that timeline, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. At this time, we got permission to make stage 378.
No objection.
And you talked about these. I think you told us before on cross that these messages, they weren't hacked or anything like that from the police. Like these were the messages, right?
Right.
Okay. We're now going to publish 378. So this message, if you could, please tell me what is the time. Oh, it's kind of cut up a little bit. What time is that message sent?
At 10:36 a.m.
Okay, on September the 2nd, is that
Correct.
right? Then we have this other little blurb. It doesn't actually have anything there, but what is the time on that?
10:36.
And then we have on this following page another message at 3:16. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think she's kind of talking about how much, she's selling some cards and making some money, something like that, correct?
Right.
And you immediately kind of respond within a minute to her at around 3 o'clock, correct?
Right.
But you don't do anything here, correct? Because it's just a random message, and there's no need to. Nothing's being asked of you, right?
Right.
It's just a random message,
Right.
and you just take care of it when you walk in the door, right?
Pretty much.
Showing opposing counsel what's been marked as stage proposed 379 through 387. before I approach, I'm just going to ask you one more time. You didn't delete anything off your phone on September 2nd of 2022, did you, sir?
Not that I recall.
Now I'm going to approach the stage proposed 379 through 387. Why don't you take a look at those?
Okay.
Okay. Sir, do those appear to be messages that we just looked at from maybe some other device that we were just looking at through your text messages or your timeline?
Yeah.
Do those appear to be fair and accurate depictions of those messages?
Except there's an additional message.
Right, there's an additional message. That's your wife's Apple Watch, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, and that's a fair and accurate depiction of what that watch looks like, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
And with the exception of the one message that's off, everything else seems to be a fair and accurate depiction of your communication on that day that you were just telling us about on the timeline. Isn't that right?
So it seems, yes.
Okay. At this time, we'd ask for the admission. Stage proposed 379 through 387.
You could approach, please.
Okay, they're admitted in evidence.
Sir, you maintained that on the morning, September 2nd, 2022, you were at home, correct?
Right, except for when I went to take a walk.
You deny going over to 7216 Bronze Circle, correct?
Yes, sir.
Publishing 379. That is your wife's Apple Watch, correct?
I mean, it's got a picture of my daughter on it, so I'd have to assume that it is.
No. That's the same picture you just told us about from your text messages, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's at 10:35, correct?
Yes.
It says Friday, correct?
Yes.
It also says Rob up in the corner, correct?
Yes.
I'm now publishing 380. Please read to this jury, what does it say underneath that photograph?
It says, "Where are you?"
Where are you? You told us you were at home.
I did not. I said, actually, when I got the messages, I was still on my walk.
Sir, is it your testimony that you were at home on the day in that morning?
Not the entire morning, no. And
Okay.
I said that to you,
And
sir.
let me ask you this question. That message isn't on your phone, is it?
It isn't. I mean,
The answer is
if
no.
it was
It's not
sent,
on your-
if
it's
it
not
was
on
sent,
your
it
phone.
should have been.
One
But
at a time, one at a
Sir?
time, please.
Yes or no? That message isn't on your phone.
why it isn't, I wouldn't know because it
I didn't
apparently it's
ask
not.
you why.
It's not on my wife's phone either.
Sir, I didn't ask you why. I asked you a yes or no question. That message is not on your phone, correct?
From what you showed me, it is not.
And you were in possession of your phone on that day, correct?
On that day, yes.
And you, as the owner of the phone, have the ability to save messages and delete messages, correct?
Yes.
Because the person who holds the phone controls the information, correct?
At that moment, yes.
Right. And she's asking, where are you? Right?
Yes.
At that same time, at 10:30 in the morning, we've seen video surveillance of a car that you say looks just like mine driving in Mr. Gehrman's neighborhood, correct?
That is correct.
Sir, if you left your phone at home, you wouldn't have been able to respond to that message, correct? If you were not next to it, correct?
I think that's speculative, but
If you left your house and left your phone at home on the morning of September 2nd, and your wife's texting you, where are you, you wouldn't have been able to respond to that, correct?
But I did not.
I didn't ask you that. If you were not in your house on September 2nd in the morning, and your wife sent you a message with a phone you had left at home, it would have been impossible for you to answer that question, correct?
Again, it's a speculative answer.
He can answer.
I'll ask you again.
Again, that would have been if in fact that was the case, if in fact I left my phone at home, then sure, yes.
I have no further questions for this witness.